Well, good afternoon. I want to begin by just saying it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited about the opportunity to be here to speak to everybody today. Frank and I had a meeting, 2 months ago maybe, talking about disaster recovery and a bunch of different topics, and he extended an invitation for me to come up and speak to you. So I'm excited about that opportunity. As Frank said, I've been in this position about 7 months, so I can still claim ignorance on a lot of stuff. I'm still trying to learn myself, but so I'm excited about the opportunity when I get it to get out and talk about what we're doing as a state and the projects we're working on, what we're trying to accomplish, and where I'd like to see IT go at a state level in South Carolina. I think there's a lot of opportunity to improve state IT. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk to you. Just agenda for this afternoon. I want to talk first about IT in South Carolina. When I started 7 months ago, I had a lot of questions about IT in South Carolina. How big is it? What do we spend? How many servers do we have? How many applications do we have? On what platforms? The questions that you would have if you started this type of position. And I'm going to share the information that I do have available. It's not a lot, and I'll talk about why we don't have a lot of information. But just try to quantify IT for you in South Carolina to the degree I can. And probably disappointed with the information I have, but also connecting people to information. We're going to talk a little bit about the division that I manage, the state IT shop, and our goals and objectives that we've set early on in the last 7 months, what we're trying to accomplish. Staying ahead of the curve, we're going to talk about the projects and initiatives that we've already started and those that I think just are on the horizon for us in the near future. And of course, talking about the challenges that we face, probably the same challenges that you face in your businesses today. So IT spending, I mentioned, again, when I started, I had all these questions about, all right, how big is IT? Let's try to quantify this. And it's very difficult to do, and you're going to hear me say this time and time again as we talk about this today. We're so decentralized in this state. We've got really 71 key agencies, more than 100 if you look at boards and commissions. And IT is managed and planned and implemented on the state level, at a state agency level. So there's no really aggregate of data. There's no centralized database or centralized data that really you can pull information from and do the spending analysis and the type of things you'd want to do. But we have worked to pull this information together. And I can tell you, I honestly believe this is a low number for South Carolina. This does not include higher education. And I've seen other estimates to say the number is closer to $350 million recently. But you can see here just under $300 million for the last 2 years. And fiscal year 08, 261. Now the difference, I believe, between 08 and 09, and I didn't have a lot of time to do a lot of research on this, but that's about the time we started implementing our statewide SAP system, a project that's near and dear to my heart. I don't know how I keep getting all these projects. We went from DMV to SAP. So, but it's a great project, and that's going to be a great resource for South Carolina. The other piece of data that I have and I can share with you is about our assets. In fiscal year 10, the General Assembly, through a budget proviso, instructed the IT office to conduct an IT inventory and to look at what was purchased, what we had, and maybe some ways to save some money. And I have that information I can share with you today. Again, I know the numbers are higher than this. We had, I believe, 59 or 60 agencies, from what I'm told, respond to this survey. So that's not all the agencies. I think we had 13 institutions within higher ed respond to this too. I'm not sure if that's all the schools there, but you can see about 2,300 servers, 261 storage units, and just under 4,000 switches and routers. And another interesting thing I think the group found when they looked at this is across those three categories, 10% leased and 90% purchased. So the vast majority of equipment is purchased. So what does this tell us? Well, again, we're so decentralized. The group found that there's a lot of duplication in aging systems. There's a lot of IT funding inequity. The smaller agencies don't have the funding opportunities in the budget to buy assets that some of the larger agencies do. And it really all leads to a kind of a fragmented management approach for trying to manage those assets. So maybe I can come back in a year and provide some more information for you in terms of where we are with IT, because one of the things you're going to hear me talk about is really what we need in the state, I believe, is a statewide IT planning process. Today, agencies aren't required to submit to my office or any office their base budget or their projects or their strategic plans. What agencies provide to us today is any new request for a project over $50,000. So basically, we're more of a rubber stamp for budget approval than really a planning office. And we really need to improve that, because if we work together and build a statewide strategic plan and we know what the agencies are doing, I mean, something as simple as if I knew that next fiscal year 13, that across the state we needed to buy 10,000 personal computers. I mean, I could do that at one time and approach the vendor community and buy those computers, I would think, at a significant discount over 70 agencies or 80 agencies doing it throughout the year in different ways. So just simple things like that, I think, can be realized, and we can save the taxpayers a little bit of money. So our mission statement. Again, right after I started, I wanted to put a plan in place and have everybody marching in the same direction. So we started a strategic planning process, and this is the mission statement that my division, the State IT Office, created. And let me tell you this, if you don't know, the State IT Office is a division within the State Budget Control Board. So I don't report directly to the governor. My boss, Marcia Adams, is the director of the Budget Control Board, and she has 5 bosses. She reports to the Executive Budget Control Board, which is the governor, the chair of Senate Finance, chair of House Ways and Means, the treasurer, and the comptroller general. So that's who we report to, and that's the structure we have in South Carolina. Now, there may be some restructuring legislation that might change that next year, but right now that's the way we're structuring. One thing I'd point out here with our mission statement is you can see we talk about government of South Carolina, because we provide services more than just state government. We also provide a lot of services to county and local government across the state. We print tax bills for a lot of counties, for example. We process credit card transactions for a lot of different counties and cities across the state as well. Our goals and objectives. Let me say this in all honesty. Unfortunately, the IT office, the State IT Office, does not have the best relationship right now with a lot of agencies in state government. Over the last, 10 or so years, there's a lot of mistrust, a lack of credibility for the State IT Office. Quite frankly, I think a lot of agencies, right or wrong, a lot of agencies think that the Central State IT Office has been much more concerned about making a profit from the services and products that we provide, rather than trying to help the agencies be a partner to them and provide the services that they need to really help them with their customers. So I've got some fence mending to do, and some relationships to really work on with the agencies to try to become that partner that we want to become. And I think you can see that reflected in these goals and objectives. We want to strengthen relationships with our customers, really try to bring a customer focus to DSIT and for our employees, and help our agencies help their customers. Ensuring information protection and privacy security is key for us. We do more and more of that every day. And again, promote and manage IT at the enterprise level. If we can work with the agencies and begin to manage and spend an IT dollar at the state level rather than the agency level, I think there are a lot of benefits that can be realized from that. Here's some of our biggest customers: Department of Transportation, Budget Control Board, a lot of divisions there, mental health, Department of Revenue, Department of Corrections. Those are like some of our biggest customers. If I remember correctly, we billed 134 customers about $45 million last fiscal year for different products and services, and we're on pace to do that again this year. So let's talk about some of the services that we provide. And if you excuse me, I'm going to cheat a little bit and actually look at my notes on some of these. We provide data services, communication services, print and mail, and security. And let me mention just a few. We run the state data center that most agencies use, or several agencies use, and we host mainframe applications for about 20 different state agencies on 2 mainframes that we have in our data center. We host several other agencies' applications in a Unix and Linux environment. We provide desktop and local area network support for about 15 different agency divisions. We host the state's SAP system, the system that we're deploying right now, for 70 agencies. We do have a small application development staff, so we do help agencies from time to time if they need help developing applications, and we need to do some more work there in terms of creating standards and a framework for all agencies to use. We do develop the architecture and standards, the print and mail we've talked about a little bit, help desk services, and we also manage the statewide 800 megahertz system. We have about 29,000 local and state law enforcement officers and first responders on the statewide radio system. Our focus and where I would like to see our IT evolve to in South Carolina is to allow the central state IT office to really focus on the commodity services that you see across the state when you look at IT. It's about help desk, email, desktop support, wide area network monitoring, those things that when you look across state IT, look at all the agencies, you see everybody doing. I'd love to be in a position where we could provide those commodity services, including hosting applications at the state data center, do some consolidation, and host those applications at the state data center. Not to build an empire or to take over or to be heavy-handed in trying to do that, but simply to allow the agencies to focus on their core competencies and focus on their business and their customers. So let's talk about some of the specific projects we're working on right now. Implementation of SCIS, South Carolina Enterprise Information System. SCIS is our name for the SAP implementation that we're doing right now in South Carolina. This project really started in earnest back in 2005, planning 5 years before that. And we are implemented right now in 70 of 71 agencies. The Department of Transportation is the last agency. We are in the process of implementing them, and they should be implemented in about 3 weeks, the first part of October. Then all of the target agencies will have been implemented, and we really begin to transition from an implementation mode to support and maintenance mode. And we're going to talk about that.
Is 71 the total number of
71
agencies that you could serve?
Yes. There are other smaller boards and commissions, but many years ago when we started the SAP project, these were the agencies that were running legacy systems for. And I should mention that there were well over 100 different HR, payroll, procurement systems, disparate systems across the state. So what we've done through the SCIS project, the SAP project, is it's a true enterprise project. Now every agency is using the same system. It is a true centralized system. So some of these, when I first started, I talked about spending analysis and talked about how do we get some of this information pulled together. Well, I finally think now we've got some of the tools like this SAP system in place so that now that it's implemented, we can start realizing the benefits of that over the next few years and pull some of this data together. So I know how much we're spending on IT. I know how much we're spending on this or on that, even at a human resources level. So hopefully we've got the tools to do some of this. Continuing on the ERP system, I mentioned we host that application now on 106 servers, I think, in our data center. And we also have a state team of about 100 FTEs, 100 employees, who, and there's some consultants in that group that actually provide production support and maintain the system. So we're going to look at two RFPs. The first one is AMS, Application Management Services. And what we're talking about there, and this is a standard service. I think if you look at SAP's website, they certify partners with AMS, Application Management Services. So basically, this would be a contract that would help us maintain the applications and provide production support. And the goal would be over the 3 to 5 year performance period of the contract to actually be more self-sufficient at the end of that. So our team, our state employees, would be able to do it with less help from contractors. The hosting services is another contract that RFP that we're working on to get on the street. We would actually, working with probably an SAP certified partner, have someone actually run that application out of their data center rather than our data center. So we'll look at these, we'll look at the costs, we'll look at the benefits, and try to make the best business decisions for the state in terms of cost and efficiency. The AMS contract you'll probably see on the street hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks. If I can keep, I don't mean any disrespect, but I can keep the attorneys away from it. And, it's always fun to get an RFP out on the street. Customer focus. We talked about the reputation that DSIT has, and right or wrong, the perception that a lot of our customers have. I know because 7 months ago I was a customer of DSIT. I worked at DMV, and we had our production DMV system that resides at DSIT, and runs in the data center that I manage. So I understand the perceptions out there, and hopefully that'll give me some ability to try to deal with those issues. But we need to have more of a customer service focus. So we are. I've already implemented some reorganization within the division. We're actually going to establish a customer service division within the IT office. So we will have dedicated employees, customer service reps, if you will, working with each agency so we can understand what the agency's doing, understand their business, understand opportunities that we can work with, and hopefully out of that discussion, we can also identify opportunities for different agencies to work together, not just DSIT. We're going to do a rate study. Right now, I'm not confident that we have the best underlying cost models in place for the prices that we charge for our products and services. Someone told me a little joke the other day, said they went to the local butcher store to buy steak, and the butcher threw the steaks up on the counter, and he said, "Man, those are expensive steaks." And the butcher said, "No, the steaks aren't really that expensive, but my mortgage is expensive." So I think we've had a little bit of that going on at DSIT too with our rates. So we're going to bring someone in and actually look at what we charge and help us develop the underlying cost structure, so that when we sit down with the customer, I can show them what I'm going to charge, and I can be very transparent about that and show them where these individual cost components come from. And that has not been the case really in the past. We're going to work to try to improve that. We're also looking at a data center study. This also is another RFP we've developed, and it should be on the street within the next 60 days, hopefully. But we're going to invite someone in to look at our data center and look at our facility. It's about 10 years old. It's a very nice facility, but it is about 10 years old, and we need to look at fire suppression, the generators, the power, the batteries, all the things that you look at a data center, and see where we are in relation to the national standards that exist. Are we Tier 1, 2? And if we are Tier 1, how do we become a Tier 2 facility? So there'll be a road mapping aspect to this too. So we're excited about that. And I want the agencies to see, excuse me, that we're looking at investing in staff. We're investing in some time and energy in our rates to make sure we're charging the right thing. And also that we're investing in our facility. And all of this leading up to hopefully an environment of trust and a partnership where they can feel comfortable bringing their applications over to the State Data Center. Disaster recovery. We have a disaster recovery plan in place right now that the State IT Office does. You still with me? Okay. But what I want to do is look at disaster recovery on an enterprise level. Soon after I started, I went around and I met with all the cabinet agency directors. And I had more than one tell me, I need help with DR, disaster recovery. I don't have a plan, I don't have a very good plan, or I've been written up in an audit because I don't have a plan. So we're going to try to approach this from a statewide level and see how many agencies want to participate, try to lock arms, look at solutions, look at their systems, and maybe even walk up to the General Assembly and ask for some money to do something on a statewide basis. That would be an interesting discussion, but we'll try to have that. Email project. This was the first project I started 7 months ago. Governor Haley was elected, walked into the governor's office. I think she wanted to communicate with her cabinet, her employees. And right now, email, again, is managed at the agency level. So we've got 70, 80 email systems, different systems, disparate systems, and it's very difficult unless you know someone's email address. Something as simple as that, it's very hard to communicate. Plus all the redundancy, the duplication of effort, and all those things. So we are looking at an email solution for all agencies, an enterprise solution where we will either host email in our data center and do the administration for the agencies, or we'll we're working with Microsoft to actually put the email in the cloud, and we'll do the administration from the State IT Office as well. So it'll be one system, one integrated system. There should be several benefits from that. One, just easier to communicate with each other, but also should be some hopefully significant cost savings as more and more people take advantage of that service. State website, we have SCGov as the official state website, and I want it to be the best website in the country. I think websites are very important. I think it gives people a perception of your state, especially if you're out of state and you're looking at South Carolina. I think it's a key tool that citizens can use to find products and services. And it's just a key communication tool. So I want to have the best one in the nation. Arkansas just won the competition. I think the Digital Center for Digital Government puts on each year. Arkansas just won. They have a great site this year. And I want to be there next year, or as quickly as we can get there. So we're investing some time and energy on our state website, and you should see some information about that. If I'm correct, we have to have our new design and our changes implemented by May of next year. So we're going to be working hard on this. In the future, on the drawing board, I mentioned IT planning, the changes I want to make there. Consolidation and virtualization. Again, I think I've talked about that. What I want to do is provide those commodity services, host applications. If the state, if we have 100 applications that we need to run in the state, and we can do that on 100 servers across the agencies, or I can virtualize an environment and run it on 20 servers in the state data center, now I'm beginning to do something for the state and save money and make a difference for IT in the state. So that's what I'd like to try to look at. Also, unified communication. I've been meeting with all the IT directors. We have weekly and monthly meetings in some cases. And I'm hearing time and time again, I need integrated communication. We have voice over IP, we have web conferencing, we have this, but we need to tie all that together. So we're going to sit down and look at options for unified communication. Mobility, mobile app development. Several agencies have told me, you take DHEC, who does all the inspections that they do. They inspect swimming pools, restaurants, everything else they inspect. So they've got guys walking around with mobile devices. LLR, Labor License and Review, they go out and they inspect elevators, for example. And they're right now working with Verizon and some others to actually develop some applications on these mobile devices. So that's something we'll continue to look at. Excuse me. In cloud computing, everyone wants to put, before the last week or two anyway, everyone wants to put Office in the cloud. So we're going to do some research there, try to vet that out a little bit and see how best to do that for the agencies. All right, so one thing I was curious about, I've been meeting with people and putting these lists together, my priorities. How do we stack up against what's going on across the country? Last year, NASCIO, National Association of State CIOs, put a survey together for this year, and they asked state CIOs across the country, what are your top 10 issues in terms of applications and technology and tools? And this is what you see. Social media, how to harness that and build it into state government and make it useful. Enterprise resource planning, I understand that one. Business intelligence, security, and records management. Identity management, legacy application, modernization and renovating. We have that issue here with so many different legacy applications. The agencies don't have the ability to invest in those old architectures, and we've got several agencies running on unsupported versions of operating systems and software platforms that really aren't supported because they don't have the money to upgrade. Networking, voice and data networking, cloud computing, and virtualization. So a lot of similarities there, and I've been to a few NASCIO conferences since I've been here, and I do see all the states really working on the same issues, and it's helpful to get together with those guys and see how they're approaching it and not reinvent the wheel if you don't have to do it. All right, challenges. I'm going to be Captain Obvious here with a few of these, I know, but I'm sure the same challenges you face in your businesses. Rapid change of technology, especially I think maybe that's exacerbated a little bit by the budget situation we have in South Carolina. You buy technology, you invest in hardware, and you don't have the budget really to maintain it or have a life cycle management approach. So that's a problem for the state. Aging IT systems, we just talked about that, and especially some of the older mainframe-based systems, agencies kind of feel that they're stuck there right now and unable to migrate and improve. Cybersecurity, we talked about mobility, and as we become more and more mobile, security becomes more and more of an issue. So security is going to be a continuing challenge for us, and we'll need to make sure we're ready to meet those challenges. We have a security office in the state security officer works in my office in DSIT, and we right now monitor all the schools, all 85 I believe school districts, most state agencies, a lot of the different schools in higher ed. So we're tied into MSISAC, which is a multi-state information sharing center, Homeland Security. So we have a lot of federal partners that feed us a lot of good information about new and emerging threats that we share with the agency. So it's a big part of what we do there. Budget, of course, I mean, I think we started last fiscal year about $800 million down because of the loss in federal revenue, so that continues to be a challenge for us and for the agencies. And personnel challenges. It's hard to attract and retain skilled personnel. It's hard to compete with the private sector when you're a state employee on the state pay scale. I think the other interesting thing about personnel is people want to come to work and do some interesting things, and they want to work in new technology and emerging technology. So I think one of the things we need to do as a state is make sure we're investing in that and be externally focused. That's one thing I see. The office I manage now has always been worried about the mainframe downstairs and the COBOL applications and the Oracle database, and those are things you have to do and focus on. But you also need to make sure that you're externally focused to the extent you can be in looking at new and emerging technologies, because those are the technologies I think people want to work on. They want that challenge. They want to learn those new skills. So I think that would help us in regards to personnel. And resistance to change. Talking to agencies, trying to work with them on consolidation, that's some of the feedback you get. Stay out of my turf, stay out of my area. This is mine. We're going to control it. But hopefully, doing some of the things we're doing with customer service and working with the agencies and trying to rebuild those partnerships, we'll be able to overcome this challenge. So how do I do? Any questions? Yes, sir.
Perhaps I'm naive. One of my observations over the last 30 years is that one of the greatest obstacles to the kind of change you're talking about is the Budget and Control Board and the state legislature.
No comment.
Do all five of the Budget and Control Board members and a majority of both houses of the legislature support your mission and focus?
I'll answer the question this way. There is a proviso that creates a joint legislative committee, a joint IT legislative committee. It's been around for a few years now. So we have members from the House and Senate on this legislative committee. And in the past, it's been our job to appear before that committee and talk about IT planning and things like that. I hope to maybe use that committee in a new way or in a different way and really try to describe some of the changes that I think would benefit the state and try to use that as a means for maybe introducing some of these concepts and seeing how far we can push them. But I do think generally the General Assembly and the Governor's Office and the Budget Control Board, they want to see these type things done. They want to see us work to partner and work together and save money, be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. So we'll continue to do that. I can't explain why it hadn't happened in the past or what obstacles were there. Simply maybe the focus has been on so many other things. But in my job, I hope to try to bring those issues to light and try to work them and see where we can go with them. And let me mention the restructuring. That may be a key part of that. We're beginning a second year of a 2-year session. So the restructuring bill that passed is passed the House, it's in the Senate. I expect it to be picked up there. And I think it has a good chance of passing. And if it does, and all the versions of the restructuring that I've seen, the state IT office is would be part of that Department of Administration and report directly to the governor. And I think that would benefit state IT. I really do. I probably said too much. Any other questions?
Yes. You said you weren't sure what your IT budget was. How many different servers or switches? Do y'all have a way to track that for the state?
We've tried surveys, but I'll be honest with you, unless there's just some legislative mandate or executive order, you don't get good responses. And I'm not trying to be critical of agency. Everybody's so busy. How many surveys do we all get? I mean, we're going to have to find a way, and maybe through the planning process, which I think we desperately need, we can begin to pull that information together. And again, understand what agencies are working on, what their base budgets are, what projects they have on the drawing board, what's coming up next. And we can begin to work together and try to pull some of that information together. And I think the new ERP system is going to help. Because, like I said, we can do some of that spending analysis and find out how much we're spending on copiers and servers and different things. So hopefully that this system is is just implemented. So now we should start realizing the benefits of the SAP system. Yes, sir.
How many customers on the ERP system now?
How many customers?
Mandated?
It is. It is. There was a legislative mandate to implement that system. I can tell you, I wasn't involved with the project then, of course, but last year, on one day, they had to implement 35 agencies. One day. SAP. That crew knocked themselves out. They really worked hard. I'm proud of what they did. I wasn't a part of it, but I had to tip my hat to what they were able to accomplish. But now we're going back and retraining and making sure everybody's comfortable with the system, best practices and that type. And we're going to get the users proficient with the system. I want to say in the neighborhood of 35, 40,000 users on like SRM, which is the shopping cart and thing like that. I think we have, that's a ballpark number. It's a big system. It really is. Yes, sir.
Do you anticipate absorbing staff from the various state agencies?
Possible.
How do you think that dynamic will work?
Possible. For email, for example, I don't think anyone's going to lose a job over this, but possibly in an agency, if they have someone dedicated to Exchange or email or whatever they're using, and we need resources, we could look at bringing that resource over for the state. Or if not, I'm sure they could repurpose that person. Typically what I see in state agencies, you have the Exchange guy or the email guy is also the guy doing other network work, right? So maybe just more focus on other parts of his job or her job, but it's certainly possible to consolidate. Even within the Budget Control Board. The Budget Control Board's a big agency, retirement, general services, a lot of big employee insurance program. Some of the divisions are bigger than agencies, and some of them have their own IT departments, and we're looking at consolidating that even within the board, and I know some of those folks will be moving around. Yes?
Are you going to release an RFP for your planning system, or is that something you're going to develop in-house?
I don't know yet. We really haven't had a chance to dig into that too much yet, and I'll have to talk to my bosses and maybe some of the legislative committees and talk about what they feel is appropriate and how to move forward with that. But it's something I definitely think we need. Yes.
Do you have, you're talking about the networks and servers and those kind of things, and I'm just curious, do you have a feel for how many actual IT employees are working for the state of South Carolina?
I'm embarrassed to tell you I don't. I really don't know. I couldn't give you an educated guess.
I'd be shocked if you did.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Hey, one of the things you talked about was personnel issues, and I've had to work with a lot of agencies for 50 years. There's a significant graying of the state of South Carolina IT workforce, as every IT organization. And I'm just curious, are there any strategies about attracting new talent that you mentioned earlier?
Well, I think one is to give people something interesting to work on and new technologies. We talked a lot about mobile application development. That's going to be key on the website. And I mean, wouldn't it be neat? I mean, people are so mobile now, and they have their mobile devices. They bring mobile devices to work. I mean, wouldn't it be neat if you on voting day could go to the website or your mobile device and say, "I live here. Where do I vote?" And it show you a map or what precinct in the map. Just things like that would enhance the quality of life for our citizens, make it easier to interact and get the products and services you need from the state. But it also creates, using that new technology, an environment where I think people will want to work. So I think that's one thing. That's just one thing we need to look at. Of course, it never hurts to try to work on the pay scale, but we'll try to do that as we can.
Thank you very much. Just a round of applause.
Okay.